The Jets last year were supposed to be terrible. They were supposed to be god-awful. They were supposed to be tanking. And that's just not me saying that. A lot of other people felt that way. A lot of other people agreed with that. And a lot of us thought they were clearly in the suck for Sam, meaning Sam Darnold campaign. Like they were doing everything they could to be able to ensure themselves a high enough draft selection to be able to get a marquee quarterback in the 2018 NFL Draft. Based off of the way the team had conducted itself in the offseason, that's the way it looked heading into 2017. It looked like this team was going to be bad, that they were going to suck really, really bad. Todd Bowles potentially be fired. And you're going to have a new head coach and a new quarterback. Funny thing happened along the way. Todd Bowles showed some of his coaching chops. Like you look at the Jets, they weren't a good team last year, and they have holes in a lot of places on their roster. But they played plenty of close games, lost plenty of close games. They were competitive. They were tough. They played hard consistently. And they really played above themselves. When you talk about teams winning 5-6 games and being proud of that season and saying they played ahead of themselves and above themselves, you're like, well, what does that really mean? Well, it still means something. And it at least, if anything else, showed you that the guy you've got as head coach can actually coach and get the maximum amount and then some out of his players. Because there are plenty of other coaches in the league, including some notable ones, that might have only won 2, 3, or 4 games with that crappy roster the Jets had in 2017. So it's not a surprise to see Todd Bowles has been kept, given a little bit of an extension. Not a surprise. You look at this offseason, and, with the Suck for Sam campaign, it's like, what the hell's happening? Then Muhammad Wilkerson leaves in free agency to go to Green Bay. The team gets a little active with all the cap space that they had. They didn't get to sign Kirk Cousins, which was originally their design, and they frankly offered more guaranteed money to Cousins than the Vikings did. But if you were in Kirk Cousins' place, would you rather play in Minnesota or would you rather play for the Jets? I mean, let's be honest. It's worth taking a little less money to go play in Minnesota, especially when you look at tax implications. It's narrowly not that much of a difference financially. But the Jets were able to take some of that money and invest it in other places on their roster, bringing in Tremaine Johnson from the Rams. That was their big notable signing, getting a marquee corner, and then bringing in guys like Avery Williamson, Isaiah Crowell, Terrell Pryor. Not guys that are going to move the needle significantly, but guys that you hope you can bring in and can contribute a little bit. But it really didn't matter in terms of the offseason for the Jets, in terms of free agency, trades, and different things, because it was all about the draft. And the Jets were one of those teams desperately in need of and desperately searching for and desperately seeking to get a long-term answer at the quarterback position by being able to draft that guy. And when the Jets were sitting there originally at pick 6, you felt like, shit, maybe they're going to end up with Josh Allen or Josh Rosen. Did they win too many games and they cost themselves the position they needed to be in to get one of their quarterbacks? But then as time goes along, they trade up from 6 to 3, and they give up a few second-round picks to the Colts to do so. And even then it was kind of like, it felt very Jetsian. Like you're going to make a big trade up, give up multiple second-round picks to get to the 3rd overall spot where potentially 2 other quarterbacks could still be taken ahead of you at picks 1 and 2 by the Browns and Giants respectively. And you could still have traded all of that to get the 3rd quarterback on the board. It just felt really weird, really dumb, really Jetsian in the way they did it. But as the way the draft kind of played out, especially late in the process, it became evident that the Browns were high on Baker Mayfield and he was going to be their guy. It became evident that the Giants were going to be high on Saquon Barkley and he was going to be their guy. And it's funny how this world kind of works in a roundabout way. After all that talk of tanking and all that talk of suck for Sam, they get out of position where they're going to lose out on Sam Darnold, who felt like he was destined to be a Jet, perfect for the Jets. Now they trade up to 3, and Sam Darnold falls into their lap at 3. It felt like, to me, when it happened, one of those things where the Jets tried to Jets and out-Jets themselves, and in the process got really dumb lucky, and their franchise could significantly change here and going forward because of that one moment and what happened. Suck for Sam worked, Jets fans. Not in the way you envision, not in the way you plan. But ultimately, Sam Darnold is your quarterback of the future. You got to be excited, I would think. I would think. Because now you've got that guy that you feel like could be that dude. And if he is that dude, when you look ahead, post Belichick and Brady in New England, who's going to be that next team that can run the show in that division? If the Jets are getting it right with Sam Darnold, they could be that team for the next decade to come. And that's how significant that is. That's how important this is. It's not just about the now, it's about that future. And it's about positioning yourself post Brady Belichick. And it feels like the Jets, if Sam Darnold could be that guy, have done the best job potentially of positioning themselves, even though I still personally like Josh Allen a little bit better as a prospect. Looking ahead to this 2018 season for the Jets, what do I really like about them? We got some really nice star power on the defensive side of the ball, bringing in Tremaine Johnson as a corner. He's a really good player. Leonard Williams, their first-round pick from 2015. He's been everything you could ask for on a top 10 pick as a defensive lineman. He's been really, really good. And then you look at last year's first-round pick, 6th overall, the safety from LSU, Jamal Adams. You look at Jamal Adams, and he feels like an alpha dog. He feels like a franchise player on defense. He feels like the type of guy that changes cultures. Like a not quite as good modern-day version of Ronnie Lott. Like, he's the type of guy that can change a culture in the locker room. He's the type of guy that can change a defense significantly just by his abilities and by his presence and leadership. Like Jamal Adams, long-term, I feel like will mean that much to that Jets defense. So you look at this team for the future, and you're like, you've got some nice young stars and have some good years ahead of them with some room to grow, especially in the case of Williams and specifically Jamal Adams. I look at that secondary, bringing in Johnson. You've got Jamal Adams. You've got last year's second-round pick Marcus May. You've got Morris Claiborne. You know, not the best unit in the world, but compared to what you might have expected in the past recently from the Jets, his secondary is much improved, and I expect it could be a little bit of a strength for this Jets defense. And I also expect this team with Crowell, with Bilal Powell and Elijah McGuire, they're going to be able to run the football. They were able to run the football at times last year with Forte and Powell and McGuire, and I expect them to be able to do the same this time, which is really nice when you're talking about a team that's going to be starting a rookie quarterback. You want to do as many things as you can to protect him, and this is a way to protect him, is to be able to run the damn football. Now, throwing Sam Darnold into the mix, it concerns me that I look at this team and I feel like the offensive line has been improved a little bit over the past couple of years, but still not really a whole lot to write home about. But most importantly of all, that wide receiving core with Jermaine Kearse and Robbie Anderson. There's nobody that's really going to scare you. There's nobody that really excites you. There's nobody that you sit there and you look at and you say, oh my God, you have to game plan for them. Oh my God, you've got to be able to stop them. They just don't have it. And they need it. And again, they don't have it. So I worry for Darnold's sake, is he going to get into some of those bad habits that he demonstrated at USC with some of the questionable decision-making, some of the throws that he forced, because he's going to have to, because his guys aren't great outside, and at some point in time, you got to get plays out there. You're going to have to take some chances. Can that just be a problem that only manifests and grows and gets worse over time? It could very well be. Now, looking ahead to the Jets this year on their schedule, you look at September, you start off at Detroit, hosting Miami, at Cleveland, at Jacksonville. Now, I kind of look at that schedule. You got 3 of the first 4 on the road, so that's not the best way to go. But looking at it, week 1, even going to Detroit, you never know what can happen. You could get caught up in the excitement of the rookie quarterback starting, and the guy could play above himself, and the team could rally around him. Again, week 1, crazy things happen every year on week 1. Then hosting Miami in week 2, you know, like if you're the Jets and you look at the early portion of the schedule and you say, if we could find a way to beat Detroit, if we could sit there and then hold ground against Miami and go into Cleveland 2-0 and potentially walk out of there 3-0, shit, you could lose to Jacksonville week 4 and you're like, we're 3-1 with a rookie quarterback. We don't know what that means for this year, but going forward, that could be awesome. And you look at October, 3 of your 4 games in that month are at home. Denver, Indianapolis, Minnesota, at Chicago. They could all potentially be winnable games. Not saying they're going to be wins, but they are all winnable games. So this is a Jets team that the first half of the season, the first half schedule is not that bad. You could almost say it's a little bit favorable to them, potentially to be able to give Sam Darnold some early confidence, to get him into a rhythm, and give this team overall some rhythm and some confidence and put themselves in a position where they're a little bit competitive and a little bit of a playoff contender for the second half of the year. It does feel like, though, for this Jets team is December would probably be most likely where it would fall apart on them. 3 of the last 5 games are all on the road. You've got to go to Tennessee, playoff team last year, to Buffalo, divisional game, always tough. Hosting Houston, who knows what Houston could be with Deshaun Watson coming back. Hosting Green Bay week 16, meaning you've got Aaron Rodgers coming into town. And then you're closing out week 17, going to New England to face Tom Brady. So the last 2 weeks of the season, you're facing the 2 best quarterbacks in the game of football today, bar none, period. So if you're the Jets, you better build your advantage early on. You better build up the tally early because that closing stretch of schedule at the end of the year is not very friendly. And I feel like that could be the reality for the Jets this year, is that their first half of the season could be kind of strong and impressive and people will be buzzing about them a little bit. And then they might peter off a little bit the second half of the year and come a little bit more crashing back down to earth, crashing back down to reality. But the truth is, when I look at this team, I look at some of the star talent that they have, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I look at the hope that a guy like a Sam Darnold can bring, a team that I feel like can run the football a little bit, a team with, in my estimation, the second best head coach in this division. And all of that, I feel like the Jets are the second best team in the AFC East. I feel like this is a team that at some point in time during the year could have a little bit of an aspiration to think about the playoffs, although I don't quite think they're there. They're probably a year away from that point, but you never know. But for now, I'm going to say the Jets are a 7-9, 8-8, probably more of a 7-9 team where they get off to a strong start and then they kind of fade off late, but still give you enough hope and optimism for 2019 and beyond. And they finish second in the AFC East. And if they can go somewhere like 7-9, 8-8, finish second in the AFC East, Sam Darnold shows them something, then you can start thinking about the Jets being the next team to potentially run that AFC East in the future.